we move on to the next session, I would like to welcome to the stage Orkun, Kilic, co-creator of Citrea. The Citrea is the first CK roll-up on Bitcoin, and Orkun will share his expertise on this. Welcome.
Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Orkun. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Chainway Labs and the co-creator of Citrea. Some of you know me from my technical podcasts and talks, but today I will try to make less technical talk and presentation. I want to speak about Bitcoin as the foundation for world's finance. So what I mean by that is in Bitcoin, there are two things that we talk about. One is the Bitcoin blockchain, which is the most secure and decentralized block space. So there are many alternatives to Bitcoin in the market, right? There is Ethereum, there are sidechains, there are many other alternative ones, but none of them has the security of Bitcoin and the decentralization of Bitcoin. And this decentralization and security also results in the censorship resistance of Bitcoin. None of the alternative ones, even its proof of stake or proof of work, does this property. But on the other side, we have the other thing, which is BTC asset. We call it sound money, and it is different than all the other money that we previously engaged. Satoshi wrote his white paper almost 15 years ago and said Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer exchange. And the electronic cash he created has this limited supply of 21 million. And because of that, it is fully auditable in your nodes. If you are running a Bitcoin node, you can see what is the total supply of Bitcoin and what will be in the next couple of years. So this is limited supply and you can audit it. And this is totally different from what we experienced before. So far, let's talk about today's finance and what's the current landscape. Now we are interacting with these unauditable monies like USD, like Euro, managed by central authorities, and they are not auditable. You cannot see what is the total supply. You cannot see when they are printing that money, when they are burning that money, because it is totally opaque. No one can audit. USD haven't been audited for decades. So you don't know what is the situation of USD, how it is backed, and the others. And using that centralized currencies, we are also trusting another party, which is centralized and custodial servers. Even though you are just buying Bitcoin, you have to use an exchange, centralized exchange or centralized custodial application to buy your Bitcoin, and it is also custodial and centralized. So you have this centralized and custodial money, and you are trusting the centralized and custodial server too, just for your money and do something with that money. It is either exchanging or lending or borrowing or something else. But let's imagine a world where Bitcoin is the foundation for world's finance. Now we have this sound money asset, BTC. It is totally different than USD and Euro. It is auditable, you can see the supply, you can hold it, and you can non-custodially have it. No one can take it from you unless you want to. And the other thing is decentralized and non-custodial servers. Instead of trusting centralized exchanges and custodial apps to actually buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, lend Bitcoin, now we can use Bitcoin layers. Why it is Bitcoin layers? Because the Bitcoin L1 is designed to have limited capability. Satoshi designed it in a way that it can only serve for peer-to-peer exchange and cash and sending transactions and receiving money. He didn't design that for programmability. Even though we can make it programmable in a way, it is still quite limited to do all the stuff that we are experiencing centralized and custodial servers. So how we can mimic the same behavior of these centralized applications on Bitcoin, and it is the Bitcoin layers. So today there are two things that dominates Bitcoin layers. One is the channels. I think most of you just tried to use Lightning. I don't know if you use it, but at least you try to use, and it is unusable. There is no programmability. Non-custodial Lightning is extremely hard. Managing all these channels, all the liquidity, it's not going to happen. And there are Mercury and some others that has the same property. It is limited in terms of programmability. And on the other side, we have the side chains dominated Bitcoin for years, like Rootstock, like Stacks, and all the other side chains that you are now seeing as Bitcoin layer 2s. But how they work is totally different than Bitcoin. They share only percentage of Bitcoin security, Whether they are stake chains, merge mine chains, or something else, they don't share any security with Bitcoin because they can easily trackable, so that the sidechain itself can have a different chain than Bitcoin, a different canonical fork than Bitcoin, because just by looking at Bitcoin, you cannot understand what is this sidechain doing and how you can audit it. You have to set up another node, trust someone else to actually audit this sidechain. So it is also not going to happen. But rollups on Bitcoin, this is the new thing. Like with Casey's invention of ordinals, and then later BitVM, we saw that we can actually build rollups on Bitcoin. For Citrea, we were building for this around a year. We started with ordinals, actually. We built an ordinals wallet. And then we realized, okay, we know ZK very well. We know Bitcoin script very well. What if we can actually build a rollup on Bitcoin? And the idea of building rollup is, now you have these two very important things. One is the most secure, decentralized, and censorship-resistant block space. And the other is the sound money BTC. So for first, using rollups, you can inherit this security by inscribing your data and proofs to Bitcoin, so that Bitcoin is now your chain that you can look for source of truth. And it gives you the correct fork of your rollup. So you get this property of security, decentralization, and censorship resistance. The other thing that you need to have is the sound money, the BTC. It sits on the main chain, and previously we thought there is no trust minimized way to actually move this Bitcoin from L1 to the L2s or layers. But with rollups, thanks to ZK proofs, now you can compress the whole L2 into a single proof. And using that proof, you can actually verify this proof in Bitcoin in some other ways, like in BitVM. Other proposed ways are like BitVMX, BitSnark, and a couple more alternatives to BitVM. But eventually, you can somehow verify the ZK proofs on Bitcoin so that you can make this trust minimized bridge between Bitcoin L1 and the Bitcoin layers, which is rollups. So, we are building Citrea, and Citrea is Bitcoin's first ZK rollup. It is the only real rollup in the market today, because all the projects themselves saying that we are building rollup, but you are just asked like, where is the code, and just show me some Bitcoin transactions that you actually use Bitcoin for your proofs or data layer, and they cannot show you any transactions because they don't exist today. But what we are building is fully open source. If you go to the GitHub, you will see all the code bases, including our bridge implementation, full node implementation, sequencer, and prover implementation. And some of the stress properties are listed here. We are using Bitcoin as our guest token and native token. So there is no other token involved in Citrea. Just by holding Bitcoin, you can transact on Citrea. You can get Bitcoin-backed stablecoins, Bitcoin-backed loans, and many other things. You can privately use Bitcoin if you want to on rollup. And for data availability, we are using Bitcoin, and the result of that is we get the Bitcoin censorship resistance and reorg resistance. And using BitVM and our bridge implementation called Clementine, we are actually getting Bitcoin's reorg resistance too, and bridge too. So execution environment is fully EVM compatible. We are building our own ZK EVM, which you can simply port your Ethereum and Ethereum L2 applications to Citrea and use them here. And the other thing is block times is 2 seconds, so you don't have to worry about these 30 seconds block times or 10 minutes block times of Bitcoin. So what you can build with Citrea. So far, think about Bitcoin L1. What you can do on Bitcoin L1. You can just receive some Bitcoin, hold some Bitcoin, but maybe you can interact with BRC20s, runes, and ordinals. But we have 10-minute block time. You have to wait 1 hour for confirmation. You have to pay lots of fees to actually include your transaction on the Bitcoin L1. But what we are proposing is you can build all of these primitives on Citrea without giving up Bitcoin security. You can build high-performance order book exchange. You can build AMMs. You can build lending borrowing applications. And actually, the last part is the most important part for me. Today, if you want to receive some Bitcoin non-custodially, you have to open your computer, set up that one of the ugliest desktop wallets you have ever seen, store your seed phrase in somewhere securely, get Bitcoin, wait 10 minutes, then wait 1 hour for reorgs, and then you are ready to use your Bitcoin. This is not the UX for onboarding many people to Bitcoin. This only prevents onboarding people to Bitcoin. But what we are proposing it with new stuff like account abstraction, key stores, passkeys, you can actually have your Bitcoin self-custodially without trusting anyone, and you can onboard many people to Bitcoin. You cannot onboard thousands of people or millions of people to Bitcoin L1, but you can onboard these people to Citrea, so they will hold their Bitcoin non-custodially, and anytime they want, they can either use that Bitcoin on the L2, or they can just transact on L1 by just atomic swapping or using the native bridge. We see Bitcoin is the foundation for world finance. Bitcoin is the most secure and decentralized block space, and it is the most censorship-resistant block space. The finance that we are building on should be anchored on Bitcoin. Everything we do must include BTC, must have Bitcoin security, and must pay for the security of Bitcoin network to Bitcoin miners. You cannot have Bitcoin security by just moving to a sidechain. Now, you are not trusting Bitcoin miners, but other sidechain proof of stake or proof of work workers, or you are paying your fees to that sidechain and it doesn't benefit to Bitcoin main chain. In the long run, we have to pay more fees to Bitcoin main chain, but we should make it cheap for the L2 users. And this is only possible building ZK rollups on Bitcoin. That is all about my presentation, and hope 10 years from now, we can actually see all the finance built on Bitcoin, not on centralized custodial servers with those unauditable monies like USD or Euro. Thank you for listening to me, and if you have any question, I will be here to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Orkun.